Are you wasting your time and money on inefficiencies in the business? Are sales down and lead conversion rates are low? Are you having problems building or maintaining inventory levels? What does it really take to win in the automotive industry?
Get the cars that make sense for your store rather than just wishing at an auction. So it gives you that better control.
With over 25 years of experience, Daryl the Wolf Steed isn't just another industry voice. He's the guy who's out there solving real problems for dealers just like you.
They'll even say in the Pacific Northwest where you're at that it's a tougher market. It's, it's tougher to find cars. The market's a little bit softer. And in the midst of all this, your turn doubled and your profit's up 75%.
Yes.
The truth hurts only when it should. Are you ready to hear the truths? Daryl is here to unpack the hard truths and the proven strategies that will take your dealership from struggling to soaring. And he is taking it all in the streets, with real talk, open dialogue, unfiltered conversations. This is the podcast series, Street Smarts, powered by Smart Wolf Consulting.
Hello, everybody. We are live at Used Car Week, and we're here with Skye, the used car director at Folsom Lake Ford, correct?
And Folsom Lake Kia.
And Kia, two stores.
Two stores.
And we are going to be talking about some interesting subjects today. Skye knows none of what I'm going to ask her, so this is going to be very entertaining. But with Street Smarts, we did our conversation today and our dealer speech for teaching, and got to talk to quite a few dealers. And acquisition is a big strategy right now, or a big focus. A lot of stores aren't doing it the way they want to, or the way that they are looking to do it, but it is a big focus for 2025. Now, with that being said, as we start every Street Smarts episode, is we want to know where our guests are winning in life. We always know that they're doing well in their career if they're on this show, because we wouldn't have anyone that's failing on this show. But where are you winning in life, Skye? What's going well? Like, what's going great in your life?
Well, my ability to help other people,
Okay.
honestly. If we're talking about life, not just
Life,
work.
just life, yeah.
Okay, all right. My ability to help other people.
Okay.
So it's been a really tough, I think, 4 years for everybody after COVID. And so just doing those little things to help people, whether it be financially or, helping people find a car is always like a good one, right? Because we have a lot of people that we know in our lives that are kind of timid about buying a car because they don't know anybody in the industry. So being in the industry and actually being able to help people in that respect is really cool.
That's awesome. So obviously being an advocate, you're the second person that's actually told me that they find it rewarding by helping people.
Yeah.
And just in anything, just trying to figure out a way to get people past some type of difficulty or challenge in life, which is great. Now, you have I wouldn't say a crazy story, but a pretty unique story of like how you started in the business and you went up. And this isn't a business that is typically friendly to the females moving up. And you deal with a lot of, let's say, the locker room and the gatekeeping of certain positions. Tell us a little bit like how you started and like the success you're having now at the level that you're at.
So it actually goes to before I was even born.
Okay.
It goes really far back. My grandfather was in the market to buy an F-150, and he bought a brand new F-150 from Dave Triano, who was our used car manager before I was used car manager.
Okay.
But at the time, Dave was a salesperson. And so they bought this brand new truck. And ever since then, my family has always bought cars from Dave Triano, wherever he was.
Okay.
He worked at Bennett Ford. And then Mr. Peterson bought Bennett
Yep.
and became Folsom Lake Ford, which is where I'm at now. And so when I had graduated college, I was looking for something to do. And I asked Dave if I could be his assistant because his assistant was leaving. And he asked me what I knew about cars. And I told him absolutely nothing. And so he said I was perfect for the job because I didn't know anything. I wasn't going to argue with him. I was just
No bad habits.
No bad habits. Nothing to break. I didn't know anything. And so I started watching him. I'm a math major.
Okay.
And I got my degree from Sac State. And I really thought it was interesting. I just thought the whole auction world and the backside of the car business was fascinating. And I told him that I wanted his job. And I did. And Dave and I are very good friends. Very good friends. He spoke at my wedding, and then he told people that I kicked him out of his job. So, but I did. I really enjoyed watching it. And so he said that, he could see it, but I was going to have a hard road, and he was right. So, it's interesting because a lot of people talk about the fact that I'm a woman in the car business, and you have to look, I'm like, I am, that's exciting, but the reality is I have never been one of those people to think of the glass ceiling, but I know that for so many people who see me and what I've accomplished and what I've done, there is a glass ceiling that's been broken. And so I can accept that. But for me, if you don't put those boundaries on yourself,
they're not there.
They're not there. They don't exist. I saw a job that I thought I would be good at, and I proved that I was. And I have to thank the Peterson family because they gave me the opportunity. They didn't have to, but I proved that I was actually good at the job and I could do it for them. And so that's kind of where I started.
No, I think it's interesting you say that, right? And I'm actually glad that you phrased it exactly the way you did with the glass ceiling. And the reason why is I think people use that almost as that victimization or the excuse why they're being held back, and especially in today's more sensitive world, we'll say. I would hate to say other words like cancel culture or woke society, but let's just go with sensitive. Is that you saw a job that you wanted, and you said that the Petersons gave you an opportunity. I would say that you earned it. Like they didn't give you anything. You earned and showed that you were going to do it because hard work, and you had the right tutelage. You had someone that was very good at his job.
Very good.
I know who Dave is. Like, he has been doing a great job for years.
Yeah.
But like, you saw something you wanted, it intrigued you, so you did it for all the right reasons, right? Like, you came into the business not for money, which is the odd spot, because typically people are like, why'd you get in the auto industry? Well, because I can make good money. Never because it was I need a job or fascinating. That is rarely what people say. But you earned it, and now like you cemented yourself as like not only wanting the job, but you guys have an incredible amount of success at those two stores. Both sides of the coin, new and used. You guys are, I don't know if I would say you guys are number one in any, but you guys are steady. I don't know if I've ever seen you guys ever be one bad month, one good month. I always see you guys doing really well, which is great. Now, when it comes to used cars, and I know that you guys have a lot of different strategies. Some people may know, may not, but where do you guys focus a lot of your alignment? Are you more in the auction? Are you more into the trade focus? What do you guys do to make sure you have like a holistic approach, or that you're never one side?
It really depends, because I think that, as everybody can agree, when COVID happened, it messed everything up completely. We used to be able to go to the Ford factory sale. There could be 600 cars. There could be 20 used car buyers. Sure. Everybody could get 20, 30 cars. Hey, you take this one. I already got these two. Everybody went away happy. Everybody was making money. It's not the case anymore. Not even
so
at
much.
all. Our closed sales got pushed down to a smaller source. We're having one down in Southern California. It's really difficult to acquire vehicles. The consumer is definitely holding onto their vehicles longer. So the type of vehicles that the dealers are seeing traded in are higher mileage. They have a lot of problems, and not necessarily something that we would keep to retail. So they end up going to auction. So it's a mix of both. I would love to say that I don't have to go to the auction to buy cars. That's not reality. It's just not. You have to supplement it somehow. But as long as you have a good team at the store that can help you with trade acquisition, that is huge. And I hate to say this, but we have a fantastic team. We do have a really good team of managers that is very good about being cognizant about the trades that they're taking in. They look at them, they can see what's wrong with them, see how much it's going to take to fix them, and then we can be successful in trying to retail that piece later on. And that makes my job a lot easier. So we do the auction, we do the trade, and then we have a street purchase buyer as well that we use. That is also very difficult, because in our market, there's a lot of KBB ICO. There's the cars.com, I think it's AccuTrade that's coming on. There's Carvana in the market, CarMax. There's a lot of different outlets for the consumer to get rid of their cars or to appraise their cars. And so what we're seeing now is we have to be a little bit more competitive. So that person's job is very difficult, because he's got to be on the phone instantly, because 6 other people have already round robined and called that person.
Sure.
But we have to be the most aggressive or the most personable. We don't know what it is the person wants when they want to sell us their car.
Sure.
So those are kind of the 3 spots I think everybody's going towards, but I can't say it's just one or the other. It kind of has to flow.
Sure. So only because obviously I live in the buying center and acquisition space, and I'm about as anti-auction as it gets, in the sense of I think you have to be surgical, because you're right. You have to be there for certain things, but depending on it now is never what it was.
Right.
To think that you're going to go there and have any type of profit left is very tough. You might find one in a haystack, but you're really dealing with that. So the trade aspect, you really have to hone in on, because when they're there's got to be a way to make the deal.
Yeah.
Now, it may not be a retail vehicle you're going to keep, but you have to figure out how to move that needle
Absolutely.
forward. But in the private party and then the third party lead providers, because there are a plethora of them now. So you have one buyer. So is that something that you guys consciously do, of just having one buyer, or is it something you guys are looking to grow and make that more of a focus, being that is the one area you can actually have control, depending on what your strategy is with it, like whether you're aggressive or building a brand, because you guys do have a very locked in brand that you guys have been around. So it's not like you just got acquired or anything else. No, that brand is very well known in your area in Northern California. So you guys kind of already have a pivot move of a trusted store
Yes.
that you guys can, that someone can sell to. So what does that look like for you guys in the future when it comes to that?
So I have to piggyback off of something you just said, because yes, the Petersons, Folsom Lake Ford, Folsom Lake Kia, we're very well known in the area, and we have a reputation. We're a family-run store, very proud of it. Part of why we don't have a huge acquisition person necessarily, because that's more my job, is because we'd love to see that person who initially just wanted to come in and sell their car. Can we turn it into a trade-in?
Sure.
Can we turn it into a deal? And so a lot of times we'll have that person, the conversation changes midway through, and what are you going to do now that you don't have your car? Oh, well, I was going to look for this. Oh, do you think maybe we can help you with that? And they turn to be taken to a salesperson who can really help them, and that becomes a trade. So I would love to grow that portion of it, but really that's kind of our success too, is we're able to pivot those people from just wanting to sell their car to actually trading it in.
Which, I mean, I think is a great point, right? What you said, and I think dealers need to really grab onto this for a moment. If you are doing it in more of a traditional format, right? You're doing the trade, you're really focusing in the trades, which, let's get real, that is the bread and butter.
Absolutely.
Like all these other pieces are incremental business or incremental streamlines, but the trade is really obviously the core piece, is that you're not trying to sell anyone a car. You're waiting till they get there, getting them through that process, and then asking them the question. So you're still keeping it very much, it is two very separate things until you take care of your person.
Correct.
And then it's like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
Now, when I ask you, like, what does the future look like, is, okay, so what you guys are saying is you have the ideal model. I don't know one person could argue based on what you're saying. It's like, well, that's exactly what it should look like. Is if you were more aggressive, or if you guys went after it more, wouldn't you drive in more people? Because we know 72% of the people are going to buy another car. They're not just selling their car. They're just tired of the old school, like go in there, it takes 6 hours to get a trade value thing. So if you're doing it like you guys are, where it's front of focus, if you drove more of that traffic in, doesn't that also help you guys in a way to sell more cars?
Absolutely. I think that CarMax really changed that for the industry, because they always had that. I remember their commercials, right? It's We Be Devo.
Yeah, We Be Devo, yeah.
We buy your cars even if you don't buy ours. It's a great thing. It's a great thing. And we have had to pivot as dealers in general, because we have had to adopt that. But what it does is it helps us see everything through the consumer's eye.
Yep.
I hate to say it, but in the car business, we have a reputation, right, for not always being consumer friendly. People are scared to come to the car dealership. They don't know what they're going to get. And so if you take that hostility away and just say, okay, we're not here to sell you anything. What can we do to buy your car from you?
Yeah.
And then we have a transaction that's happened, right? We've agreed to buy your car for this much. Okay. Are you going to drive out in something else? How can we take you to this step? And I have to say that the buyer that we have at our store, he's phenomenal at that. But he's been around for a very long time. Very sociable, personable guy, not really pushy. And he's got a great relationship with one of our other salespeople. And they work very well together to make the customers feel comfortable. And that's the most important thing, is making the customers feel comfortable.
And I think that's, well, like you say, that is you found somebody that has been doing it, or that's comfortable in the auto industry, like he's sociable. And then you found, what I like you said, is that he has one other person he works well with. So now it's an experience. It's not, let me get you a sales guy.
Yes.
And then you turn it into that old school, like, oh, now you're just handing me off. Like, I don't matter.
Yeah.
You actually have now bridged that gap of like, once we're done here, I want you to have that same level of experience. But on the sales side, let me get you somebody that already knows how this works, already knows, almost like they're certified. And I use that only because certification kind of brings another level of expectations. which I think is great because you're seeing it and you guys are actually doing it right now the way that people say they want to do it, but they don't follow through. They don't have that process, or we kind of do it. I don't know how you kind of do anything. You either are doing it or you're not. Now, in your guys' store, what is your guys' big goal? 2025 is coming up. Okay, 2024 was definitely an interesting year. We saw ups, we saw downs, we saw circles around. What is the goal for the Ford and Kia store and just used cars? Okay, we're back. Sorry, guys, we had a small technical difficulty with the webverse. Okay, so we're sitting there talking about getting things going, and we're waiting for my guy to say if we're actually back in live here. Let's see if we're actually good. It says the clock's rolling, but we're gonna stand here and just good. All right, so we're back live in Skye. So when you're sitting there talking about where 2024 is going, and we had some challenges. We had some ridiculous challenges with inventory, and now the used car compression's never been worse. We're essentially back in on probably 2017, 18, where you're paying up for cars and not necessarily always great cars, but then you're trying to figure out retails, make fixed ops. So when you guys are you're looking to grow and you're looking to create that dynamic, where do you guys grow from? Is it because you're going to sell more new cars, taking trades? Or are you guys looking to just grow the used car business? What is that plan for you guys and something you could tell dealers that they should be looking at, not your competitors, because we don't want to help them out, but everybody else, okay?
Yeah. I think that, especially in the Ford world, Kia world, we are very blessed because we have inventory now and an abundance of it.
Yeah.
So hopefully moving forward, we will be able to sell more new cars and get those trades that we need in. Just because we know the scarcity at the auction, it's so high. There's just nothing out there. And there's too many dealers competing for the same thing. And we're pricing ourselves out of the market on some of these things. It's incredible. You get these cars back to the dealership, you've paid almost retail book for them. You still have to recondition them. You still have to certify them. And you're trying to make a profit on the front end and pay your salespeople commission. It's almost impossible to do if you're having to buy from the auction. So the hope is that, yes, we can sell a lot more new cars. That is the hope, is we need to go back to old school. Let's sell more new cars. Let's get trade-ins from customers. And let's see if we can kind of create our own momentum. Because I think if we get that ball rolling again, then we're going to be able to create a pretty nice used car market for ourselves.
Now, another area that a lot of stores have started to focus on, I don't know if you guys do or not, that's why I wanted to ask you, is, and I hate using the word upgrade because it's just it's so misconstrued of what upgrade is and everything else. But when it comes to service drive, is how are you guys doing it? And then if you are, how are you guys going about service drive, trying to pull that in, and not equity mining? I don't want to talk about equity mining because we all know how cumbersome that can be. Is where you're just offering more than a good, better, best to fix it. Are you offering other sources like you can fix it, you can replace it, or you can sell it, so that the consumer actually has real choices rather than feeling like they're forced to just fix it?
Yeah, we again, we've had amazing people. This really comes down to the health of our dealership. And we have really amazing people in place who help with all of that. We have great service writers who tell our customers, hey, look, this is what you can do, but here's this option over here. If you want to explore that, I'll take you to this person.
Sure.
And that is, I think it's as simple as that. You just have to have good people who, yes, at the end of the day, we're all in this to make money.
Yep.
But also we're there to take care of our customers. And we need to look at them as customers and say, okay, I can't take care of you here necessarily because it's going to come out of your pocket. But what if we trade you in over here? Would this look like something you want to do to get into a better car? Then you have another customer for the next 3-5 years.
Well, and I think that's a great way when you're talking about that, and how you articulate that is, if a customer's RO, let's just say, is $3,500, $4,000, you have to really get into, okay, is it really best for the store for them to spend that money when their car's worth $3,000? Or is it, you're an advisor, right? This service advisor, or however you guys scope it, is, shouldn't you be advising them to, here, you have your options. If you want to spend the money to fix the car, that's your money, but let us give you some choices so that you can make the best decision, educated decision, whatever version people want to say. But when we say, oh yeah, here's you got to fix it, and you don't give them other options, that doesn't really help you build that next level of business, right? Yeah. You want to keep them with you, constantly coming back. Essentially, like your story is that you want someone buying a car to where they are going nowhere else ever again. They're always doing business with that dealership. Yeah. So I think that's great that you guys are approaching that, because you guys are kind of taking all the prongs and you guys are going out of them. And like, you probably could do it more aggressively if you wanted to, but you know that, hey, look, we're doing it based on how we want to still take care of the customer and deliver what we need to. So I was just in this panel over there, and a group, Swickard, which is mostly in Washington, Oregon, Seattle. And that's the first thing they said is like, look, we're going to make a little less money. But the first thing they said is like, it's all about the hospitality. They want their customers coming back because that's how they grow their business. Absolutely. They don't like, yes, I get it. We talk about, okay, could we make all this money? And we did in COVID. There's no dealership that didn't make money. And if you didn't, you probably did something massively wrong. But now the other side of that is okay, now I don't want to say buried, but how far did we push the customer? We pushed the customer out 2 to 3 years, because so I tell people when I go in to do consulting, guys, I get it. You made all this money and you think you're in good shape, but whatever you made now needs to carry you 6 years, not 3, because you push people out another 2.5, 3 years. Right. And then now the cars, like you said, that are coming back in, well, they didn't trade them in. They can't trade them in. So now they put a little more miles on them. Maybe they didn't serve them as well as they would have. Right. Or you didn't get them before the big services need to be done that they're avoiding. Yes. They don't want to spend the money. And so now you're going, man, I took this trade in and it needs $6,000 worth of work. So you're like, I can't keep that because I stepped up on the trade, but I can't keep it. So I think we need to understand that, like, yes, you have to get back to that new car thing. I know, guys, I said new cars, which is like a cuss word for me, because I live in the used car world. You can't have a used car without a new car sale. I agree. I just think that we could just we magically can manifest used cars. This is my fantasy land. And the reason I say that, guys, is when it comes to new cars, we know what they are. They're a profit driver to get used cars and fixed operations. And we're back to the dynamic of new cars don't make us money like they used to. There are cars you're still going to make money, but for instance, Ford's a great brand. I don't know if they have cars anymore, right? You guys now have SUVs and trucks. They don't have cars. No Fusions. Okay, that's right. They have the Mustang. That's the only one left. But no Focuses, no Fusions, none of the entry-level cars. So now it's a lot of the CUVs, SUVs, things of that nature. So those ones, there's not a lot of markup to start with. Now you have trucks. Like, yes, if I get $130,000, Raptor, or the Bronco Raptor, which one of the coolest looking cars I've seen. So yeah, maybe there's profit there, but we need those trades, because how many people can afford the 100,000 mile or $100,000 truck? I don't know if there's a big buying public for the $1,500 a month payment with money down type of thing. Now, when you're seeing it in the market in used cars or just in the market in general, where do you see the biggest disconnect? And not in your store, because you guys have a pretty dialed in operation. Because you have, like you said, I think what we really need to focus on before I ask you this question is you have the right people. I think a lot of people, process is important. Like, you have to have a process that gets followed and you can measure. But if you don't have the right people, you can put in the best process in the world. So the fact you guys have taken time and got the right people and let that maturation happen is a testament to, obviously, the organization too.
Yeah.
Giving a shout out to the Peterson organization of, one, not being on that recycle door of like just getting rid of people, growing through people, not getting rid of people because they make a mistake. And then that in itself is kind of wildly different than what you see in the dealership world.
Yeah.
But knowing you have the right people, what do you see the biggest challenge in other stores? Like, you have a couple stores, we'll say within the vicinity of competitive nature in the Folsom area that do turn over people a lot, and maybe aren't doing as well as you guys. What do you see? Is it turnover? Is it process? Is it marketing? What do you see the biggest thing that stores are struggling with outside of your organization that because you talk to a lot of people.
I do talk to a lot of people. I honestly have to say, so I need to admit something too. I've actually never stepped foot in another dealership other than like my next door neighbor. So I've never gone into another dealership except for the one that I work at. Okay. And
this is why she's not jaded yet and still thinks that everything is great, guys.
Yes. Yeah. Honestly, where
she's
work,
at,
like,
fantastic.
This is amazing. So, but I will say that it all has to come down to process. That is the most important thing. And you have to follow through on process. And I am a stickler about process and following through. And you can
my new favorite person.
If you can ask anybody that works with me, some people really don't like me, and that's okay, because I am a stickler for how things need to be done. And I don't like when people skip the process, because then they get mad because something went wrong or you missed this. And here's the best part about it. It costs you money. If you skip a process, like let's say you try to sell a car before it's gone through the shop. Okay. And you've already landed on the price with the customer, right? But what if there's something in there that we didn't even know about because you skipped the process? So now that money that you think you could have made, it's gone.
It's gone.
So it's all about process.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm in love, you guys. I mean, I'm married, but I am in love, okay? Because they have put longer hair on me, and now Skye is talking that process is where not only do I train and do consulting, but where I was at as used car director for very simple reasons. One, I don't believe there's gray area in process. It's black and white. It gets done every time. But two is, if you're going to measure and adjust and get better at something, how do you do that if it changes every time? If you constantly move a goalpost, I don't know if I'm better or worse because you keep changing what we're doing. I need to have something I can measure.
And I'm not saying that we can't change, because in this industry, this is forever changing.
Sure.
And especially with the, AI technology, where we're going in this industry, we have to change, but you have to be able to pivot within your boundaries.
But I think it's like change is fine. Like, we change every day. I mean, when we talk about process, guys, so that we're clear, is yes, I believe change, AI, we'll see what that develops in the acquisition model. In the sales model, it's definitely going to be all over the auto industry. But when we're talking about changes, you have a process. It's, let's say, 5 steps. And in some dealerships, maybe some of you guys are watching, okay, this process tends to change hourly, daily, and doesn't get communicated to other people. And so they're going, well, I was doing the process that I thought we were doing that maybe we're doing. And, okay, guys, when you're going to change something, it has to be in a change that then is discussed and then put in place. You don't say, well, today this is the process, but tomorrow we'll let you know. Or we always try to find the exception to the rule. No, guys, we put rules or boundaries in place so that we can measure and adjust. Not saying there isn't an exception, but I think most dealers try to find the exception to every rule, or it's always, hey, this one's different.
Right.
How many times have we heard that this one's different? Or, well, but see, the thing is, there's a story, Daryl. Yes. And I'm like, there always is.
Yeah, there always is.
There always is. Like, guys, no, listen, there's only a story because you need there to be.
Yeah.
Rather than following the process. So I love the fact that you say it's process. And I think dealers really need to understand that is COVID, I think, and as I call it the fake flu. So for everyone that gets offended by that, if you go look at the numbers, flu disappeared. We never had a flu again in COVID. Right? Everyone had COVID. No one had the flu. Now, magically, the flu is coming back because COVID's no longer a thing. Right? So, but the reason I say that is COVID destroyed process, because we have the car, press hard, sign 3 times, it's yours. And we could put whatever price we wanted on it. Some were a little bit more customer friendly to it, and they just charged market based. So there was a markup, but it wasn't this ridiculous amount. And then there were some that like sent people to the ceiling and really took advantage of the market. And hey, you do what you have to do. But now you're seeing the effects of that is we had no process in the sense of it was, you didn't have to have sales skills. You didn't have to have acquisition skills. I mean, it was just fog and mirror. You were good. And so now process, I think, is where people have to live, because now you have to get back to how do you manage your store for the next 10 years? How do you get back to that consistency, which we had before the pandemic, but we kind of lost it because I think you probably even see it in your store a little bit, not as much because you guys don't have as much turnover, but just the sales skills have diminished of like the gift of gab or the feature ad benefit, like that kind of went away because you didn't really discuss that.
Well, it's funny you say that because to me personally, I feel like I watch people who sell cars who really know how to sell cars. And for me, I think it's an art to actually be able to do it, because you have to put yourself in kind of a vulnerable situation. You have to, one, be okay with people to tell you no. And that is hard. In this society, it's very hard for somebody to tell you no in your face, but to not listen to the no and get past it. Like,
right?
You're like, I know you just told me no, but I didn't hear that. So we're going to go this way.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the really successful people that I've seen in our store, they don't hear the word no. And it's not that they're being overly aggressive necessarily. They're just figuring out how to pivot, how to sell. And for me, it truly is an art form to watch them do it.
Well, it's funny you say that too, that like, so I look at the word no, and on the acquisition side, guys, for those of you guys that don't do buying or acquisition, a day in the life of a buyer would be 150, 200 calls. If you're doing all the facets, the leads, the private party, the service drive, and you're going to hear your offer's too low, which is a no, or no, out of the 200 calls, 198 times. And the two that you don't hear no will be a maybe, which is kind of like a no. They were just being polite about it. And when I hear the word no, it's next opportunity. And the reason I say it like that is when I hear the word no, it's because I haven't found I didn't ask the question, or I didn't pitch the right situation to get them to want to say yes. So sometimes you're pushing an agenda and I'm like, oops, I stopped asking questions, which is typically, that's the art. Is how many times are you asking the question, or are you pushing your agenda and saying, telling, you're like, you're not really selling anymore. You're telling rather than saying, hey, so what are we going to do with this? Make them get involved in the conversation, have them answer back to you so you can figure out. If you ask questions, they will tell you exactly what they need to make this. Now, it might not be possible. They might say they want a $200 a month payment. You're like, you're on a $60,000 rig.
Right.
Math, listen, this ain't going to math.
Yeah, let's go look at something else.
Yeah, we need to look at a third of what you're looking at to get there. So the math isn't mathing. But if you ask them and you just say, okay, now tell me what your agenda is today, or tell me what you're thinking, and just let them talk, shockingly, they will tell you everything.
The biggest thing that I think that people have to learn, and this is also hard, you've got to stop talking. Let the customers tell you, because they will tell you what they want, what they like, what they don't like. They'll tell you a lot. You just need to be quiet and listen, or just ask leading questions, you know? And again, it's an art form. You can actually get your consumer to go where they need to go. But part of our thing too is nowadays, I forget, is it 14 hours worth of
research
they do before they come to your lot to actually purchase a vehicle. And that is huge, because now we have intelligent consumers. They have had time to look around. And I think one thing that we can't ignore either is people's initial reaction of you as a person. We have to sell ourselves more to be trustworthy, upstanding, because they have so many other options now that they really need to like you as a person. And I think that's a personal piece that we're missing.
Well, so that is actually a really great point when you think about it for both sides, sales and acquisition. Let's talk about sales for just a hot second. That. So if we have 10 Ford stores in a 100-mile radius, what differentiates you from an F-150? Like, everyone has them. Mm-hmm. So it's you.
Yeah,
like 100%. It's you as a person. In an acquisition, same thing. Well, we all know the CarMaxes, the Echo Parks, the Carvanas, and everything else. And we all know you can get an online offer and then go get it inspected and everything's that. Well, what do you do different than them? Let's assume you beat them, you match them, you do whatever. It's you. You're the secret component. So now, are you likable? Are you vulnerable? Can you listen? And this is a challenge to every dealer. And Skye, you can certainly use this with your people. You probably won't need to because they are you, as you said, you have artists. You don't have salespeople. Go ask anybody a question, but before you do it, take your phone, right? iPhone, Android, doesn't matter, and I want you to put a timer on it. And I want you to put 2 minutes and 30 seconds on it and ask a question. And you cannot, for any reason, interrupt them for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And if you're a salesperson, a GM, a sales manager, which will be comical, do it in front of your staff. This will be hilarious. And I want you to ask a question to your team. And for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you can't say a word. And let's see if you can do it. I would bet large sums of money that 90% of you fail. Because we are so quick to get the edge or the control. We don't just let them tell us their story.
Yeah.
Make a friend. Or like, what are they going through? Like you said, asking leading question, like, hey, what brought on you want to trade this in or selling it? And then just let them go.
I will say one of the most heartbreaking things I've seen in acquisition. Oh my gosh, how many of you guys have had to deal with deaths in the family when people are coming to sell your cars? It's so common, and it is so difficult to deal with that. But you have to have that heart to handle these people, because even though they're just selling you a car, that encounter with you helping them will resonate with them down the road. And one day when they're back in the market, or their family members back in the market, they're going to say, go see this person. Go see Anthony at Folsom Lake Ford. He's going to take care of you. He helped me with your dad's car when he passed away. I mean, it happens all the time. And that's huge. Is we have to, as an industry, and I love the Petersons for this, we have to look forward. We can't just focus on today. We have to look at keeping these customers 3, 5, 10 years down the road, whether it's just acquiring their vehicle, whether it's taking it on trade, whether it's helping them in service, whether it's helping them buy an extended warranty because their warranty is up on the vehicle, whatever it is, we have to look at this person, this customer is our family now, and we need to keep them in this circle. How do we do that?
You know, it's interesting you say I'm going to hit with death in the family, because that one, guys, if that doesn't resonate with you, please turn this off right now. But when you're talking about helping, I think dealers forgot that we're actually in the customer service business.
Yes.
I know we think we're in the sales business, but we're not. We're in the customer service business. We sell a product, but it's really the customer service behind it. Like, for instance, new cars. We know that you don't typically make a lot of front end profit. There's back end, there's service. It's customer service that brings them back. If you get them once and then they never come back, I hope you made money, because that's a really missed pass. But when it comes to a death in the family, and I'll tell this story only because when you brought that up, it actually resonated. We had this lady come into one of the buying centers that I'm consulting with, and they called me and said, hey, how do you handle this? And I said, well, what's going on? They said, her husband passed away. They gave her the value, and they gave her all the money, like beat CarMax did all that, because it was like a 30,000 mile car, but it was like a 2012, but like you would have thought it was brand new. And so book doesn't matter, market doesn't matter. Like, this is going to outperform any market.
Right.
And she's like, I just can't sell it for that, because like, this is all I have left of my person. And so they called me and said, guys, you need to let her go talk and like be empathetic. You need to connect with this person. And why? Because they're dealing with the hardest thing you can.
Oh yeah.
And so what you need to remember is you're there just to help them, whether they sell it or not. It's not about the acquisition. And I know that's really hard to hear if a buying center or even a sales is like, guys, if we don't sell them a car or we don't buy their car, it's not about that right now. It's about them understanding that we're there to help them. We're there to be empathetic, to be vulnerable with them, and say, if you need anything, you let me know.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't turn out the way we want it, that's okay, because people do remember that down the road.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to remember the next guy they go talk to or gal they go talk to that pushes an agenda. And they're going to go like this, I don't like that person because they didn't listen.
Right.
So I think that's great that you talk about that, because that is something that happens more often than you probably like to hear. I like to hear.
I mean, ever since we started doing the buying center, it's just mind blowing how many people are in that situation. And I know it's a part of life. I understand that.
Yeah.
But to have so many people go through it, and the other thing too is they don't know what to do. They don't know. They don't know what documents they need necessarily. If their title was an and instead of an or, they don't know
the time frame it takes before they can even do anything.
All those things. And so if you can help them through that, it's huge. And if you guys have ever lost anybody in your life, you know how big of a deal that is.
Well, that's like anything that's a reminder, right? It's like doing an estate sale. Everything that reminds you is like, they want to keep everything. Well, of course they do. Like that's the life they built. It's everything. So I think it's great that we talk about it being more customer service oriented, mostly because when you think about that, that's how you bring people back. And I'd be willing to bet, even though you found the auto industry fascinating, I still come back to that. You found it fascinating, and it's because she's not left her store. Okay, they don't want her anywhere outside that bubble, but you found it fascinating. And I think the reason you've had a lot of success, not because you don't work hard or anything else, is not only because you found it fascinating, so it intrigues you, but you really lean into the customer service. Like, it's because process is customer service. Process is one of those things when you follow it, you don't have to be the most like. I tell people all the time when I come and I build stuff for them, the first 90 days, most people don't like me.
Yeah.
Because I'm basically telling you, no, this is how it's going to work. But then after 90 days and they're making more money, they're like, oh my gosh, this guy's great.
Yeah.
And I was like this. Yeah. Remember when you guys were saying you wanted to light me on fire? Well, it's because I'm saying, guys, we have to have standards. We have to do that, but it's customer service. So in my speech, I was showing people a review, and this will blow your guys' mind, right? And I'll put this on one of the social media so you can see this. We have a testimonial from a dealer, and it's from one of the buyers. And he says, because the way that I do the training and everything else, customer services, we focus so much on the experience. I could care less if they buy a car. It's about conversations and experience. Inevitably, they buy a lot of cars. But he says, more times than not, we buy it for less than CarMax or Carvana because of the experience and how we treat people and the convenience. And so I made him say it again because I think dealers think like it's a joke. He's like, yeah, and every day we look at what was the CarMax offer to what we acquire it for. And even though they can go there and everything else, they're like, no, like someone talked to him, someone listened to him, someone made him feel good about it. And then you get the reviews or the testimonials, which there's nothing more powerful than someone doing a 20 or 30-second video telling the experience they had with you.
Yeah.
Because we can tell you guys, we can say, hey, well, this is what we experienced. But a customer saying it, like that's like fishing with dynamite, because it's like, why would a customer lie?
Yeah. And, I'm very blessed. Again, I use that word a lot. I'm very blessed because I work for the Petersons, and they have always made that their priority. And so I have been able to make some decisions to really help some customers that need it. Without having to ask any questions, know, and to be able to, do that for people. I mean, we'll have customers for life, small things. And, I always used to say, like, bring me $100 problem. When somebody back in the day when you could buy a battery for a car for $100.
Yeah.
Now
back
it's like a $200 problem.
Yeah, $200.
It's like a $200 problem, right? Bring me a $200 problem, because it's so small in the grand scheme of things to the dealer, but it's so big to your customer. It's huge. And so, but I work for a company that believes in that truly believes in that. And that's where I'm grateful, because I hope that I started my career with them, and I hope I get to end my career with them, because that is what they've built. And this place that I work for, it's pretty amazing.
I mean, I hope you end your career with them, because if you go somewhere else after this, like, it's all downhill for you. But now you're talking about the customer experience, which I love hearing that. Well, I mean, I've known the Peterson Group for a long time and known that's about. I'd be curious to ask you, because you're in the inside, right? Like, you're in it, and not your experience, because we obviously know your experience is great. Like, you love them, you're in it. But everybody else there, like, so we know that they put customers first, which I think is great, right? Customers first. Where do the people fall with Peterson's? Their people, their staff. Like, how do they treat them, right? Because to have that good customer service typically means that you treat your people well. Not always. Sometimes people are just, they have a lot of good people that do it out of the grace of their own.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear, like, how the people look at that, because they don't have a lot of turnover, which is a rare thing in the auto industry. Like, when people come to work, what does that culture look like? Or what does it look like when you come to work? Because it has to be kind of electrifying.
So it's funny, because we've been told by not only customers, but I get told by my vendors all the time. It's like, know where you've been before. You walk into our store and it's a different feel. It's, hi, welcome to Folsom Lake Ford. Like, who are you here to see? It's, what can we do for you? It's not, what can you buy for? Oh, you're looking for service? Let me take you over here. We've created this culture that's unique. And I say we, the Petersons, It comes from the top. It really does. And my boss that I took over for, Dave Triano, he worked there for over 30 years. There's a couple of the senior managers that worked there for over 30 years. And that's impressive. And I think that is just what you're asking me. That proves it right there.
Sure.
Nobody stays at a job for 30 years, especially
in the auto industry.
In this industry, unless they're happy, they're taken care of, and you can do what you need to do that's right for your customer, and you don't have that haggling back and forth. Can you justify what you did? Can you justify what you did to take care of the customer? Perfect. That's all they care about.
And interesting enough, when you talk about that culture, and I'm making assumptions here just because when you see good cultures, it usually is a couple different things that build that. One is they pay their people well, maybe not the best in the industry, but well. Is the schedule that they have for people? Is it a real balanced thing, or is this more of the old school store and people just love their job where they're there 7 days a week, 15 hours a day, right? Because usually I see it's the reason they love it is it's the balance. Like you have family time and but you don't have to feel like I have to be there.
So I am one of those weird people so I work Monday through Friday. Theoretically, my hours, 8 to 5, but I have a cell phone.
Yeah.
So I answer my cell phone all the way up
electronic
until I
leash.
go to sleep at night. I wake up in the morning. It's the first thing I look at to answer text messages, emails, because I want my people to not have to wait for me. I'm on vacation. I'll be in Mexico. I'm on a beach. Somebody calls me and I'm helping them right then and there, because it's so much easier for people that you're working with if you take the 3-4 minutes when you're on vacation to help them not stress about something. It's amazing. And we all feel like that. We can all take our vacations. We all have our time. We have great schedules. We have a lot of people who have growing families, which is really awesome. They've been able to take their time with their families. And again, I can't even say enough, like the culture that they've created, because everybody loves to be there. It's really just an electrifying place to work.
Well, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on here, as I've heard nothing but good things about the Peterson Group forever. But then I'd heard like great things about that you're process oriented, that you guys are steady, you guys keep it going. And so I was like, man, it'd be great to see it. And you can see when you talk about it, like you smile, you light up.
I do get excited. I really do love my job. I love where I work.
And for my wife, babe, see what she said. Okay, so it's normal. When you're on vacation and you take a 3 to 4 minute call, this isn't me being weird. This is 100% normal. So I always get this. I'll be on vacation. I'm like, this is the third text. I got to answer it. She's like, you're on vacation. I'm like, no, you don't understand. They wouldn't text me if it wasn't serious.
Right.
So, but what I like you saying that is like growing families and everything else. So whoever you look at as philosophizers in the philosophical dense is like Tony Robbins is the 6 things that humans need, and certainty is one of them. When you guys have built this culture, what it sounds like is that you guys have this like certainty of people can now have growing families. They can do these things because they're not worried about their job. Now they do the right thing. It's not like they can come in and not do their job, but it's because they're going to be held accountable, but they don't have to worry about like, oh, the owners had a bad month, so now everyone's looking for a job. Like that is so elating to hear, because I wish it was something we'd say like, oh yeah, you're like every other store, but it's so unique in today's dynamic to have people, when they talk about their job, aren't like putting on fake smiles and going like, yeah, I have a great job. It's great. Like actually getting electrified and exciting and saying like, you're part of something, right? Like every time you've talked about it, it's like, you've built it, right? Like like you guys are building this thing because everyone is part of that dynamic, which when I look at dealers right now into 2025, I think process is important. I think acquisition, if you are not doing acquisition and acquisition isn't more important than sales, I wish you the best in 2025, because it's going to be a long, hard year. But I think culture has to be right behind it. Are you putting the right people in place? And are you giving them a wide enough net, whatever word people want to use, to let them grow and make mistakes? Or when they make a mistake, it's the first thing you're looking to do is find out how to get rid of it.
And I agree. And I think more than anything, the people, if you have the right people in place, I beat myself up more for my mistakes than anybody else ever would. They just see it, it's the cost of doing business. I always hear that, the cost of doing business. But for me, I take it so hard if something does not go the way that I thought it was going to go, or I took a chance on something, because that's another part of the business is you take chances,
There's a gamble aspect to it.
Totally is. And sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But you have to learn these things. And if you don't take a little bit of risk, like you may not always get the reward that you're looking for. And so that's a huge part of it is the trust. There's so much trust in what we do. And that's part of having the right people. You have to trust the people that you have working for you.
I agree. I had the fortunate service. I worked for some groups in my day before I went to the consulting side. And I was fortunate enough to probably work for somebody like you're talking about. And when I was at Mercedes-Benz of Fresno and Bischoff, I had an owner who hired good people and said, you do what you're good at. So very singular focus. He didn't want the jack of all trades. He wanted people that were very good at what they did. I had a GM that said, look, if we're making money, You're going to make mistakes. We'll talk about them. We'll figure out how to get better. You don't get to make the same mistake twice. Like, don't keep making the same mistake. But it was when we went in, we were like, everyone did well. Everyone wanted to be there. Everyone grew. And it was like, wow. Because I'd also worked in some other groups where it was like every month you were like, okay, what's coming next?
Yeah.
Who's not making it? Who's that? And I think it allows you to also, like you said, take more chances in the sense of not chances, but like calculated risk. I know I'm right. You're not even making risks based on you. You're taking risks because the team behind you, you're like, I feel confident they'll execute whatever risk that you're taking.
Right.
And I think that gives you a lot of empowerment of, I feel confident I can do a lot of different things because I have a good team.
Yeah.
And so I think that's great. And seeing that, one, that you're having a lot of success in Northern California. For those of you guys don't know, California is it's interesting for 3 reasons. California has every law you could possibly imagine that you have to navigate. We also have people that, like, if you look at them for more than 6 seconds, want to sue you for something. And then we have some of the biggest compression, because when you look at the rest of the country outside of probably some areas in Florida and then some in the New York area, is we have more dealers in zones like per capita than anywhere else. For Northern California, I think we have 175 dealers in a 35-mile radius. And that's not even counting independents. That is like franchise. Like when you get from Chico to Sacramento, I think there's 100 dealers different. So it's one of those things where you look and you're like, holy cow, there's a lot of competitive. So knowing that, one, you guys are always right there in the hunt. You guys are consistent. You're not seeing these, well, we did 30 cars one month and then we did 80. And then, no, you're seeing a steady flow. So it's a real testament of what you're doing. And you should be like, you should take a bow. I mean, don't take a bow because you're sitting down, but that just takes a lot to obviously do that. And you've been doing it. This isn't like your first year. It's like you've been doing it consistently for a while.
This is I'm at 3.5 years now on this post. And so
she got to start.
I got to start at the peak of COVID.
Yeah. So like she's like, this is the easiest job ever. Like, I don't know why anyone complains about used cars. This is easy. And then she got the 6 months after and went like this. Okay, I got to stay away from sharp objects because like now I don't know what just happened.
Yeah, we had to come in for a landing, and it was like, how rocky, like what kind of turbulence are we coming in?
And you came into probably the worst turbulence because you got to see the highest of high and then the immediate peak and then the immediate fall. But I think that you need to obviously take a bow and like get your flowers of that you're doing a good job and really outperforming the market. And then, like you said, you get to work for a group that I think after this, like, I don't think you guys have a problem. I think people are going to apply online because they're going to be like, how do I become part of this group? And the reason I say that, guys, is that, one, their facility is enormous, but it's beautiful when you walk in. It's one of the nicer Ford stores that I've been in, unless it's one of the stores that just got built where they build these things like mausoleums now. And then the Kia store is right next to it. So, to wrap this up, guys, we're at Used Car Week and we're learning about all kinds of stuff. I was lucky enough to be here as a speaker. And if you're looking for acquisition, that's where I help. But if you guys if you're looking for different insights, okay, reach out to Skye. She works at Folsom Lake Ford. And guys, what she just said is something I echo all the time. You got to have process. You have to. I don't know how you could possibly track and adjust and make moves and make calculated risks without it. But then it's people, right? You still have to have the right people. If I have a bunch of goons and the right process, we're only going to get so far, right? So you got to get the right people in that culture. I want to thank you for coming on. Yeah. Is there any burning desires, thoughts, things that you want people to know about you that we don't know? Something unique, weird, no one knows about you?
I, being a female coming into this, a lot of people who know me quite well, they used to joke that used car managers don't wear dresses, and that's why I wear skirts. But no, being in this industry and this aspect of it, especially as a woman, it's been so much fun. It really has been. I've had the hazing, I've had all the looks and different things that you imagine would come with it as a female, especially being young. And it's just been fun. You know what I mean? You're going to get it. And this job is hard. This industry is hard, but it's also extremely rewarding. And so for anybody who wants to further your career with what you're doing, just go for it. I mean, I did, and I can't be more grateful that I did it. I'm so happy.
I'm glad to hear that. And I'll tell you guys this, 25 years in the auto industry right now. And 14 of them in acquisition and building buying centers, and the other 10 in used car operations. And I will tell you right now, for Skye to be 3.5 years in, there's no doubt, one, that she's doing a great job, because in the used car industry, or managers, directors, whatever people get titled as, that shelf life, you are the least thanked person in the dealership. You're never doing anything right. And when you do, you could have done better. And the turnover rate on used car managers is higher than salespeople typically. And the reason why is because when mistakes get made. So for 3.5 years at a store that's outperforming the market says a lot about that you're putting in the work, that you're getting it done. And it's that challenge that you're taking and not making an excuse for it. So I think that's great. Guys, with Street Smarts, we're hoping that you guys learned at least one thing today. One thing, if it made you, one thing you learned that made you better, that's what we always want to bring in, is a different dynamic, a different voice. Skye's voice obviously is going to be heard, because let's get real, she's not going to let you guys take her down. Okay. She's here to prove that she can do it, and she is doing it. And we want you guys to engage, comment. And as I tell everybody, live or on podcast, I want the trolls too. Tell us we're wrong and tell us what we could be doing better. Okay. Because guess what? We only get better by people telling us what we're not learning or what we're not seeing. We hope that you guys are talking about it, engaging, subscribe. And if anything comes up, guys, reach out to Skye, because it gives you a different voice. If you guys are looking to build acquisition, Street Smarts and Smart Wolf Consulting. And guys, thank you guys for being with us on Used Car Week.